Yeah, as you say, we've done about a third of the magazine is dedicated to business English. So we're looking at the state of business English as it now is. It's been around for about 30 years, basically teaching people to do their job in English. And we just wanted to see what new trends were developing, whether business English was really as successful as people claimed it had been, and whether any new technologies were making business English teaching even more effective. Interestingly, I think there's been a big push towards teaching very authentic English, the English that is really spoken in meetings by native speakers. But interestingly, that's quite hard for non-native speakers to aspire to. So what has happened is that a sort of idiolect has developed, which the publishers and the business English community have sort of perpetuated over the years, a much less authentic English, but an English that all sorts of people can understand when they're communicating with each other. So that's been one interesting development. We've also looked at the speaking skills and listening skills within business English, because they're the two areas where most adult learners struggle the most. They're quite happy reading and writing in English, but when it comes to the cut and thrust of a meeting or socialising, then that's a very particularly difficult area. So we look at both speaking and listening in the issue as well. I think there's a big argument as whether we are trying to teach people to speak English as native speakers speak, or Robin Walker writes a very nice article in this issue about English as a lingua franca, a much more simplified, clearer, more communicative version of the language, if you like, which is not owned by native speakers but is owned by the rest of the world. Most people learning English will never do business with an native English speaker. They'll nearly always be working with non-native speakers, and so communicatively they need to be able to deal with that situation rather than dealing with the Oxford graduate or the BBC newsreader. We've got our normal range of opinion pieces and reviews and some practical ideas. We've got a very nice article on the revival and the renaissance of the podcast. Students making their own podcast to deliver and broadcast to other students. Got a very nice article about turn taking, a very important skill in terms of communication, not just the backwards and forwards one-way traffic of conversation, but how does a non-native speaker join a conversation, take their turn in the discussion, make sure that they are heard in the meeting. And then our usual big reviews section as well, just reviews of the very latest books that people have used out there in the markets. Well, we're beginning next year with a look at English for academic purposes, which for a number of years now has been growing as an important, influential part of ELT, not only as pre-higher education academic English, but also looking at whether in secondary school 16 to 18-year-olds shouldn't be doing more preparation for an academic world in English, so essay writing, seminar attendance, critical thinking. So our first issue of January concentrates on EAP.